a lot of English learners say? Can I learn English from music? Can I learn English from movies and TV shows? Can I learn English from video games? And if any of those is yes, which one is best or what, man? What should I do? How should I consume this kind of stuff and learn? Well, the first answer is yes, you can learn English from all of those. You can learn English from music. You can learn English from movies and TV shows. You can learn English from video games. In my opinion, they are not all equal. And I want to focus on video games because I think that if you do it correctly, you can learn more from video games than movies, TV shows, and music. Of these, music is the worst, in my opinion. Why? Because the lyrics in music are not like spoken English. So you might pick up words here and there, but you don't know if that's how people normally speak. Movies and TV shows are better because you are getting words, phrases, idioms, cultural references in context, right? But it's one way. You're writing them down, maybe you're looking them up, but there's no interaction. In video games, potentially, you're getting much more interaction. So you're getting a lot of those words and phrases. You're still learning things, but it's more immersive. You're part of the story. You're making decisions. And sometimes you understanding what someone is saying is a requirement. You're not required to understand what someone says when you're watching a movie or listening to a song. But sometimes you cannot take an action unless you understand what this says or unless you understand what this person is saying. And so there's a bit more pressure that feels a bit more like daily life, right? If you get a job and English is required at your job, sometimes you understanding what that guy or that lady said is required in order for you to do your job correctly. And if you don't understand, you fail. You get fired. Well, that's pressure. Pressure is a good thing. You want that when it comes to language learning, and video games can provide that, but again, in different ways. So what I'd like to do is talk about a couple of different ways that you can learn from video games if that's something that you're interested in, and then recommend a game or two for each type of learning. And we're going to start simply with a lot of content coming at you, particularly reading. There are some games that require you to understand a lot of things in order to solve puzzles. So you might play a game like Fallout. Fallout is a game where the world ends, there's a nuclear disaster, and you have to survive, basically. And one of the things that the game involves is reading a lot. And there's a lot of listening too. So you have to listen to a lot of instructions and take action on those instructions. And in order to, for example, open a door, you have to first read these 4 pages of this, comprehend it. And once you understand it, you then figure out how to open the door. So, and this is a game that I've played quite a bit. It's called Fallout. There's Fallout 3, Fallout 4. There are different ones, but it's pretty interesting. It's very immersive, and you have the chance to, I think, see your language learning improvement impact how well you play the game. So that would be one option. Now, another is where you have to respond with choices. A classic one of these is you might not be interested in Star Wars, but if you're interested in Star Wars, it would be Knights of the Old Republic. I actually played it on iPad, and it's a lot of choices that you have to make. Somebody will say something. You can also read the text on the screen, and you need to choose a response. Do you want to say this, or this? So you have to understand the 3 responses, and based on that, they will take an action. Or you might change a little bit, because sometimes you become an evil character or a good character based on which one you choose. Another one that's more recent is Genshin Impact. I actually have a friend who works on the game. It's a very cool game. It is actually a free game, and you interact with the characters based on what they say, or as speaking, or what they say in writing. Some of the more popular characters or common characters that you meet, they have voiceover, so you listen to what they're saying, then you choose a response. And sometimes you encounter a character, for example, there's a trainer who teaches you how to cook. And that person doesn't always speak. So you have to read what they're saying, you read the text, and then you choose a response based on that. So you have to there regularly interact like you would in a normal conversation, which is pretty interesting. So I would recommend for that sort of game, something like Genshin Impact is pretty good. And again, that one is free, and it is a pretty fun game, honestly. It's a kind of open world adventure game where you can do what you like, you gain magical powers, you do quests and things like that. And it's pretty fun. Now, what if you want to interact with other real people, right? These are all, so far I've mentioned text that's been written by the game developers, or NPCs, that's what they're called, NPCs, characters that have planned speech, right? What if you want to interact with the real people? That's great. I would recommend there choosing a game where the chat function is really important. A lot of shooter games or first-person shooter games depend on the chat function in order to play well. You can turn it off, you can turn it on, but if you want to practice, you can build a team in Call of Duty and you're talking with those people, right? You're having conversations, where to go strategically, what to do next, right? Which weapons to use, where the enemy is, where this rare weapon is, right? Call of Duty would be a good choice. There's one on mobile called Call of Duty Mobile, which I really like. It's one of my favorite games. You can play with a controller on your iPad or phone, which is very cool. And you're talking with people all the time if you choose to. You don't absolutely have to. Or something like Fortnite, which is also a free game, and you can play it on mobile. You can play it on PlayStation X. Every platform has Fortnite, and you can use that function too. A team of 2, a team of 3, and you can build friendships with people based on that, right? You build groups and you play at a regular time 3 times a week, and that's your team, and you get to know those people and you practice speaking English along the way, and it's really fun. Fortnite is honestly extremely addicting. I'm worried that I'm going to become addicted to it. I've only started playing it recently, but it's pretty great. Then you can get into the world of Discord servers. So if you really like a game, not just those, but if you really like a game, you will often find a Discord server attached to that game. You can join the server, you can chat, you can share things that happen, strategies. It's a community. So in addition to playing any game, see if you can find a Discord server or perhaps a Reddit group associated with that game to then have a community around it. That would be a great way to get immersion. Now there's one last type, and I think this is the type where you're learning the cultural references, you're learning maybe the humor, you're learning things as you would in a story, right? If you're reading a book. So it's more like reading, except it's a lot of listening. So it's like almost like listening to a podcast. There is some interaction. You do have to make choices as well, like the earlier examples that I mentioned, but it's more, a lot of it is background. It's voiceover. Sometimes funny, sometimes serious. And 2 examples pop to mind immediately. One is called Trover versus the Universe. I believe that's what it's called. And this one is, Trover Saves the Universe, not Trover versus the Universe. This is a hilarious game created by Justin Roiland. So if you like Rick and Morty, this is one of the creators of Rick and Morty. He created a universe, or a game called Trover Saves the Universe, and it's a lot of voiceover. You hear so much voiceover, and it's all really, really funny. You could even, if you don't want to play the game, watch gameplay on YouTube just to sort of get a lot of cultural references and understand English humor. And then another classic one is the Stanley Parable. So this one does require you to understand what the narrator is saying, but the whole game is narrated by a voice, and there's kind of an interaction. It's a weird game, an interaction between you and the narrator is saying what you're doing. And so it's interesting, but you can pick up a lot of interesting language from the Stanley Parable and games like this. I'm not saying just these games. I'm giving some examples. Of course, new games are always coming out, but these are just different ways to learn from games, and I think there are more ways to learn from video games than from movies, TV shows, and music. Not that you shouldn't use those too. So I've given you an excuse to play video games, all right? So go play video games, but make sure you're doing it the right way. Make sure you're getting the most out of the experience. Make sure you're actually picking up and using, very important, using the English language as you play.